Welcome to the Biloxi City Council meeting of Tuesday, August 18th, 2020. Do I have a motion to suspend the rules?
I moved. Second.
I have a motion by George Lawrence, seconded by Paul Tisdale. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Lucy, if you would read the additions or removals.
To our consent agenda, we're adding item 5W, resolution authorizing entry into addendum to the contract with Warren Paving. We're adding item 5X, resolution authorizing entry into addendum to contract with Land Shaper. And also 5I, resolution authorizing entry into addendum to contract with Land Shaper.
I move that amended.
Got a motion by George Lawrence,
I'll second it.
seconded by Paul Tisdale. Motion to accept the amendments as presented. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Do I need a motion? Motion to accept the agenda as amended? Okay. Well, we're good. Then we'll move into the presentation agenda. Mr. Mayor, your report.
I really don't have much of a report, other than we'll continue with whatever budget questions we have. We know our efforts right now are to figure out where we're going to be at the start of the FY year and manage the adjusted budgets and consider things that are going to be happening with the COVID and some of the opportunities to recover some of the monies and actually move forward with our position to go into the next year. And that concludes my report. I'll thank Mike, all right?
Well done, Mayor, well done.
All right, very good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This will move us to departmental reports. None scheduled for today. We'll go on to council reports. Councilman Tisdale.
Yes, I'd just like to point out that I have scheduled a Ward 5 meeting for Monday, September 14th at 5:30 at the Snyder Center, and I'll remind everybody again at the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Tisdale. Councilwoman Newman.
Mayor, I have a concern of why we are shutting down basically local business owners, local bars from serving alcohol past 11 when the casinos are still able to do so.
Well, again, we've had that question a number of times, and I met a few people at the foot of City Hall. Again, we're trying to be in accordance of what the governor has done, and there is some difference in how things are handled from business to business, and I think we've extended our 11 o'clock service of alcohol to coincide with the governor's. Again, in looking at where we were a few months ago, I think we're 5 months into this COVID, and I have to respectfully, I'm in accordance with the governor in how these, the bars and some of these other things are really nose to nose, and this is a serious place we find ourselves in, and I'm going to defer and be in line with what the governor's asking for the next, I think, to the 31st.
With all due respect, Mayor, I know what the governor's order is, and I think our order even slams them even more, just the local businesses, and allowing the casinos to still serve the alcohol, which is way more people in the casinos.
Well, I respectfully, I understand the position that a lot of folks are putting themselves in, but it's not nose to nose like some of the things you've seen across the country, and we don't want to put our position, we're in a buying opportunity, and if we do these things right, I understand that there are consequences and people are hurting. There are also, some what we need to be as a community, and if we can stay a couple more weeks, stay the course a couple more weeks, we may see those numbers. Those numbers have been over 1,000 a month, and we've just seen some of them drop to 400, 500 across the state. I think it's important to stay the course a couple more weeks.
But I don't want to see local businesses have to close. I would rather see maybe require them have a security guard, and if people are getting too close, well then that's their job to handle that, or something like that. But to pick and choose who you want to close and who you want to stay open is just wrong to me. That's
Well,
just my opinion.
I respect, what you're asking, and what people have been asking you and us too. But, I would ask everyone to understand our position and what we're trying to do over the next couple of weeks.
Early in this whole process, the governor said that the local governments could be more restrictive than his order, but not less restrictive. So we can't be less restrictive. And obviously, we're not asking them to close down, only not to serve or sell alcohol after 11 o'clock at night. So, I mean, they're still open, and we know that because we've been in them. We've had police in all the clubs in the city the last 2 weekends. So we're pretty aware of what's going on. And the first weekend, a lot of them were still serving alcohol after 11.
What I'm saying is too, if you want to close down some bars because you have an issue with the COVID situation, then that's fine, but you can't say, okay, but everyone close except the casinos. I mean, that's just totally wrong.
Well, I would agree with you that a lot of people laughingly say COVID doesn't get worse after 11.
Exactly. I wasn't going to go there.
But we're just complying with the governor's order. He didn't give us the option to choose.
Somebody has some autonomy over the gaming situation.
Yeah, well, the gaming
Yeah,
authority.
the gaming
commission.
Authority, and again, I think you go look at some of the measures they've taken. It's apples and oranges. It's a little bit different as far as seating, and as far as
Respectfully, I disagree. It's not apples and oranges. They have seats, and so do bars have seats.
Well-
They all have seats. The difference is you have a control factor and a revenue factor that are different. You can require people in bars to space out and put 3 people at one table, just like you do in the casinos. You could also close down bar front areas and require people to sit at tables. I mean, it's what's being done around the country, and I've been in many other cities just in the past few weeks, and we've seen this being done in bars with the same type of restrictions that we're using in the casinos now. And I don't see why we couldn't do that to our small business owners.
None of them have proposed that, coming back and doing some of the things as far as screens, and again, removal of chairs and tables and so forth around that. I mean, the nose-to-nose close contact has been a problem throughout the country, okay? And there's an opportunity to stay the course for a couple of weeks, and let's see. Let's see if we can make it then. We're just really getting at the curve and trying to, you've seen our governor on national television try to fade the 20, this is the worst, 23rd, I think 23% of the people get this, the positives as far as the testing versus people who are positive, 23% the highest in the country per capita. So that's the intent, I think, what the governor is to, let's just remove and stay the course to at least we can knock that number down. And it makes sense to me, and I understand the position a lot of people in. But I mean, there are differences. I can tell you.
The only thing I think that Ms. Newman is trying to express is that we really, in today's day and age, we want to see an equal application of the law, and I don't think we see that. I think we see handpicked opportunism, and without that equal protection and equal application of the law, it's an unfair society because we are picking winners and losers, and we're determining who we think will or won't abide by the rules that are set forth by some governing entity before we actually give them the opportunity to abide by the rules. But we'll save that debate for another portion of the time, and I didn't mean to take over your discussion, Ms. Newman. If you're finished with your discussion, we'll move on to Councilman Lawrence.
I was going to ask a question pertaining to that. What would be the difference if you run the bars till 1 o'clock instead of 11 o'clock?
Again, I don't know exactly what the differences are. I just know the governor said stop serving alcohol after 11 o'clock. Okay, and we're going to pay attention to what the CDC and some of these other folks do, and when the governor takes that position, we'll be right there in accordance with it. And I don't know nose to nose, what the deal is, but how everybody operates differently, and some of the folks, a lot of the folks, have no problems with what the governor's been asked. There's some people who have a problem. But I mean, basically, that's my position. In that, when that thing rolls off expires on the 31st, we'll be right there with him.
Well, we hear you.
Test, okay, that's better. Thank you for hearing me. Do the restaurants in the gaming establishments, do they close at 11?
They stopped serving,
What about,
stopped serving alcohol.
all right, and they stop serving alcohol at 11?
They stopped selling alcohol at 11.
They stop selling, do they still serve? I mean,
He's saying in the casino.
do they still serve and distribute alcohol after 11? That seems to be the crux of the matter.
That is correct. They
All
do.
right.
People can acquire alcohol through some form of service in the casinos after 11 o'clock.
Okay, and I think the gaming commission regulates what goes on in casinos? Okay. And the reason it's become an issue is because local establishments have a beef about that. Are they socially distanced and all that other good stuff in the casinos?
Yeah, I think so.
You can tell I'm not a big casino goer, I don't know, but, okay. But we have ample evidence from what you've said that local establishments, in fact, better mousetraps, smarter mice, they figured out how to get around this. You've said that doesn't comply with the governor's intent. And if everybody did what they were supposed to do, we wouldn't need executive orders or things like this. But we're trying to comply with what the governor's order says we've got to do to bring the COVID cases down. Do I understand all that correctly?
You are. You
Okay.
used a couple of terms that I think are inaccurate. When you said ample evidence, I think you're talking about speculative evidence. I don't think
No,
you have. Well, let me finish. You're generalizing a term because you might have found one bad apple in a bunch. There are plenty of other local establishments that still follow the guidelines, including the guidelines that we don't agree with. What we had, though, is a system in which private businesses are seeing certain private businesses, casinos, who are a sub-governmental entity, who are still under the authority of the governor. The Gaming Commission doesn't have superior authority over the governor. The governor is the executive of our state. But we're seeing a casino, and we're beat up. We get beat up every day because private small businesses that are willing to abide by the same rules and regulations that the casinos follow, meaning the social distancing and the spacing, but we're not even given the opportunity to do that. We're told we can't sell, and all of our potential revenue now is driven into the casino, where the casino gets to feed off of the businesses that we've built. That's the problem that we're seeing here in our small community, is our communities being pillaged by a casino system that's allowed to subvert the law.
I don't know if I've ever heard the word pillaged in here. But
Let me say,
But
I don't know about-
wait.
about
But all this started with speculative in terms of ample. I think what we heard Mr. Leonard say was that the police have been out there, they've seen this. It's not a matter of he said, she said. It's occurring, and the reason we have this, I think, is a couple of things, a couple of reasons. One is we have folks who would say they push the envelope when clearly what they're doing is trying to get around the governor's executive order in order to make a buck. All right, it's the first thing. The second thing is everybody's beating on councilmen or the mayor or whatever. But why don't some of these folks start beating on the gaming commission?
And the governor.
And the governor, for that matter.
They don't have access to those people.
Sure,
No, you don't. You can suggest that, but they don't. Those entities are insulated far too much for the average person to get in front of them.
Can I
However,
say- Sorry.
yes, Ms. Newman.
All right, one of the businesses in particular that was a local business, their bar stools are taken up. They're upset that they can't do exactly what the casinos are doing and just serving the alcohol to the tables that is within a bill. And so it's the same thing as a casino. So I suggest how you ride around and check in everybody's ward, that you go inside the casino and see exactly what's going on and how they're all table to table to table, shoulder to shoulder at the tables, playing the games and getting the cocktails. It's the same thing, and you're discouraging local businesses from doing it, which are going to have to close, and not only the local businesses, but also the employees who are now unemployed and not getting any more unemployment at the moment. So it's wrong, period.
Can I still drive around in your ward? Okay. I drive around in everybody's ward. Okay.
But Popo, could you look at extended to, say, 1 o'clock?
No,
We can't do that?
deferring to the governor. If
But
I'm
most
not-
of the bars do their business that time, 9, 10, 11, 12.
What I'm not willing to do is when the governor says oh, it's okay after 11, that's when we'll run. I mean, there was a point, I understand some, what he's trying to do, and the bottom line is we're trying to end this thing. We took $5 or $6 million hit because of this thing, and anything we can do, if there's some sacrifices going to be made, and that's unfortunate, but we're making the sacrifice right now. So, as far as evidence, there were people selling alcohol after 11 o'clock. Now, what am I supposed to do? Say it's okay? And the governor, I've gotten in trouble before with regard to putting me in conflict with the governor. I'm not willing to do that.
Well, I'll tell you that anytime you put these draconian or archaic style measures in place, people are going to try to find ways around it to make money and survive. The casinos would do the same thing if we made them restrict their ability to generate revenues for certain periods of time. And we've seen this in other places through other time periods. The problem, I think, when Paul says people should be beating on the governor and the gaming authority and those other sub-governmental entities is we're their representatives. They beat on us. We can get the audience with those people. The mayor can get the audience with the governor. They can't. That's why they beat on us, because there's a system in place. They come to us, we work our way up. The next group works their way up. We should be calling Scott Delano. We should be calling Joe Carter. We should be calling Randall Patterson. We should be calling our state reps and complaining to the state reps about these issues. We have those audiences. We are their audience, or they are our audience, and we should listen to them. And we should use our voice to project their voice to the next level of government. But
Is that in your report?
we can get into that philosophical and political debate later, Paul. I appreciate that we differ on ideology, and I love to engage in it further. If you have anything else to say, I don't want to cut you off and feel like I just control the argument. Please feel free to rebut anything that I said.
I'm speechless. Thank you.
Now, if I could only do that to George Lawrence, I'd be special. Mr. Lawrence, do you have a
No report.
No report.
I feel you like that one.
Councilman Barrett?
Not to belinger the point, but one of the issues that I have is the casinos are getting away with this by simply they're not selling alcohol. So money, them exchanging money versus not exchanging money basically gives them a free pass. And I agree with Dixie and I agree with Robert that, yes, if you have 50 people crowded around a bar drunk at 2 o'clock in the morning, the likelihood of COVID spreading is a lot more likely than if you're 6 slot machines away and you're drunk and you've been sitting there all night from, the next person or whatever. And I haven't been inside a casino since they've opened back up. However, I'm sure there's some kind of measures to keep people separated. But the problem I have with it is, number one, like Dixie said, you're driving businesses to close, which in turn it's a domino effect all the way down. Can't buy groceries. The employees can't buy groceries, can't pay rent, can't buy school supplies for their kids going back to school, all these things. And I'm a friend of the governor's, and I disagree with this completely. What applies to one business should apply to the other if the ability to follow the same rules or they agree to follow the same rules that are being placed on the casinos. Now, there's some bars that the size isn't big enough to spread out. The size of the bar is too small. But the bars that have the size and they spread out and we can limit the amount of people that are in there, I see no reason at all to be placing this. And it's not just bars. Any business that these limitations are being put on, I believe they're wrong. That's just my 2 cents. I'll move on. And when I talk to Tate, I'll tell Tate, and I haven't discussed it with him, but I'll tell him the same thing. I believe that he's putting limitations on certain businesses that he's not putting on others, and the casinos are getting away with it because they're not selling alcohol. They're giving it away. But it's the same concept. You put, as long as whether people are intoxicated or not, if they're separated, at a casino, and they're separated, the likelihood of passing it is, you know, the same. And so I agree with them on that. Moving on, we have a groundbreaking the 26th, is that correct?
For Eagle Point Park.
Eagle Point Park. So very excited about
Do you remember the time, sir?
11 p.m., isn't it?
11 p.m., yeah.
I just wondered, 'cause I was,
2 o'clock on the 26th. And that's, we're excited about that, and the progress that we're seeing out there is really great. Excited about that. We also have a major sewer project underway, or a drainage project underway in the most problematic area of Ward 7 as far as flooding when we have a major rain event. And that's been a long time coming, so thanks for getting that on the street and going. It's going to take a big load off of that east end of Woolmarket Road and Highway 67. And then, you know, I went and visited the community center the other day, and it looks amazing. I'm excited to get that parking lot in and get that opened and available to the public. Outside of that, that's all I have.
Councilman Glavin?
Yeah, thank you for that. First of all, I want to welcome Felix Gines back to the inner sanctum here. It's good to see a healthy Felix Gines, and we prayed for your family, and hopefully it helps. So welcome back. You know, I'm hearing, you know, the distress that we have in our community, and I'm sure other communities are experiencing the same thing. We just hired a GM from Dallas to run one of our properties, and he reports in Dallas 12% occupancy in the hotels right now. 12%, Dallas, Texas. So that's, you know, we're going to be a long way from the recovery as a nation. Thank God for Biloxi's leadership, and we'll do everything we can to support our community and our businesses and our families. I want to do a shout out, and this isn't a political thing, but Voters for Trump parade was unbelievably amazing. I got to see it, company I work for, I got to see them come down the channel and everything, and it harkened back to the days of the blessing of the fleet, to see all those boats out there. Even though they weren't shrimp boats and they were mostly pleasure crafts, it was great to see that many people enjoying the natural resources that we have in Biloxi, and seeing them enjoy something amid the pandemic that we're in. It was absolutely great. I want to do a shout out to all the Biloxi teachers and administrators and students and parents that are making it work so far with these kids going back to school. You know, I'm raising my grandson, and I just see how it's affected him. I mean, he's happier, and his friends are happier to see each other and interact with the teachers. And I know there's communities that, because of COVID, they've delayed them going back to school, and I feel for those families and students that want to get back to that interaction. It's very important for us to be a healthy nation and a healthy community. Want to tell Public Works and the administration thank you for addressing the lighting issue on Applewood, where I really appreciate that. We still got an open case for Watersview drainage. We do have the permit that is very difficult to get. We do have that approved. I know there's a question about providing labor, but I would encourage the administration to please ask our Public Works Department to support it, and to support the county in clearing that major ditch that kind of clears water from a lot of surrounding areas there. And I realize we're down to 90%, or we're 10% reduction, but we still have 90% available to provide those resources. I'm almost finished. Real men wear pink, so I've been wearing some pink and everything. I've been involved with a campaign for cancer awareness, and it's been very eye-opening to me. I got involved just because I felt it was the right thing to do, but then I'm drawn in emotionally to hear all the stories of friends and people I didn't know, to listen to how they've even overcame that terrible disease, or they've had family members succumb to it. And of course, the big thing is early detection is the key element in breast cancer awareness. And I'm happy to report, not me, but through the efforts of a lot of people supporting this. I'm an ambassador, but a lot of people supporting it. Our campaign is sixth in the entire nation. We're up to $9,500. I figured I'd raise $1,000. It's up to $9,500. I want to single out some people. I know I may have mentioned them last time. I'm going to mention them again. First Lady Serena Gillich, CAO Mike Leonard, Councilman Barrett, Council Peter Adbide, Walt Rohde that's in the audience today. And if I missed anybody, I apologize for that. But we've had over 130 donors to that. And I'll be sending an email out to my colleagues. If you can contribute $5, it matters. And I'll make sure you're duly recognized if you can spare at least $5. And that concludes my report.
Councilman Gines? It's been so long, I almost forgot your name.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, President. First of all, getting my footing back, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for filling in while I was out with the COVID-19. My family is doing well. Everybody has got through protocol very well, and I've got my results back this morning saying that I was negative. So, of course, that's why I'm here. So I just want to thank you guys for catching me up on the budget, first of all. Second of all, for all you guys who called and gave me the well wishes and everything. My community, I just want to give a shout out to the community. The community was awesome. When I got up in the morning, I mean, it was a tough, some mornings was tough, and I went to the front door. There were Gatorade sitting at the door. There was water sitting at the door. There was food sitting at the door. The community showed up and the community showed out. So I just want to make sure that I thank the community of Ward 2 and the community of Biloxi for making sure that I was taken care of and taking care of my family. And that was just an awesome feeling to know that you got a community that showed that how loved you are. Getting back to COVID again, I wasn't able to make the second COVID testing, but we had a successful COVID testing constantly in our community. That was the second one we had, which was August the 5th. I want to thank the mayor for ensuring and making sure that we got the arrangements for having COVID testing in our community. We're one of the few communities that had COVID testing at least twice in our community. And if we need more, Memorial Hospital is willing to do that. And that's one thing about having a good, resilient community, having good people around you to make sure that these things are taken care of in your community. While I was out too, we had the backpack giveaway. I want to make sure that I acknowledge those 25 sponsors who came out at Henry Beck Park on August the 1st. You know, and that was when I started feeling bad, August 1st. But we gave away almost 300 backpacks for the kids going to school. You know, we know we're at unprecedented times with this COVID-19 and all the things that's going on, but we have a great, resilient community. So again, I just wanted to thank everybody for the well wishes, thank everybody for the food. Yeah, I'm about 15 pounds lighter now, but it's not the best way to go on a diet. But COVID-19, like Dixie say, we want to make sure everything is applied across the board, but this is serious. This is serious, and we need to adhere to the CDC guidelines because that's what's going to save us. That's what's going to save our community. So thank you, Rob. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilman Gines. There's been a lot said already in these council reports, so I don't want to continue to beat the drum of what's been said. I do have a couple of questions for Chrissy Labata. And Mike, Mr. Leonard, you may be part of this discussion as well. I just want to get an update and an understanding on the paving project that we had in my ward with that new process. I know Mr. Leonard, we discussed a couple of times that you're required to go back out there and clean up, remove all the pebbles. Now, has that been done?
They came out one time. We weren't happy with the work, so we asked them to come out again. So far, they have not come out. They are a company out of Jackson. I don't know if they're waiting till the next time they're here in town, but I will touch base again with them and find out what's going on.
So what did they attempt to do the first time they came out? Because when I go out there, I still see
They probably just scraped up what they could with shovels, honestly, on the road, on the asphalt itself.
right, the homeowners are furious because those pebbles sat there for so long. They're covering people's yards. People are trying to cut their grass and they're shooting pebbles everywhere. And I didn't know if they had the ability to help clean this up somehow. I know this is easement area within the first few feet of the property line. Is there any way to help out the homeowners that are now?
If we can't get them to come back out, I'll talk to Mike about getting another contractor maybe to come in and just clean up, and then we can deduct it out of their payment for them not coming down and finishing the job if we have to.
Mr. Leonard?
I was going to add, Christie and I already talked about this. If he's not back this week to sweep up all the gravel on the roads, we'll hire a small contractor and we'll start next week to do that. It's just a matter of going along, sweeping up and picking up all the rocks and so forth. Here's the big picture, though, that I want to admit. We did a paving study last year that you all agreed to pay for, and it rated all our roads, and we've been using it to determine where to pave and so forth. That study said that we could save 50% if on some roads that were still in pretty good shape that we did what's called a chip seal or a sealer coat, instead of milling it up and replacing it. We believed that. We found a company that would do the chip seal, but honestly, by the time we finished with all the problems we had, we learned we're going to go back to doing the way we always did and just mill and turn. We're not going to use that process ever again.
And to be clear, this was the first time we've ever used this
It's
process.
the first time we've, in my history, and the public works people that I know, history, that's the first time we've ever used this process here. We believe the study was done, maybe it works some places, but it didn't work here. And it didn't work mostly because the contractor was coming all the way from upstate to do the work. It wasn't a local contract. Another mistake we made. But we won't make that mistake twice.
Thank you. Does this contractor have any more projects ongoing or current or upcoming projects here?
No.
Actually, you know, that's the Wallace, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. They're doing some work for as a subcontractor to the gas company.
Oh yeah, you're right. They are. They're
So,
working
and
with
they
gas.
seem to be doing good work. But this is a process it was the process, not the contractor. Although we're not happy with his response to.
Well, it is
Up the
it is
mess.
the contractor. I mean, the time delays from doing the processes in which they were supposed to do caused a lot of the problems, the spreading of the gravel and the pebbles, and they've left our because of these time delays in this process, they've left our residents harmed, in my opinion. And when I use that term, I guess as a term of art, from being a lawyer, they're harmed as their yards are now in worse shape than they were before this process started, and I don't know how. When a resident asks me, how do they do this? I mean, I don't know.
They spread the rocks and then they come back and put the sealer over the top. They spread the rocks and then we had a week rain. It rained for a week, and they didn't come back to do the things. In the meantime, people drove on those rocks, and the rocks got spread around. So I'm not giving them a pass. They should have come back and straightened it all up before they put the sealer down, but they didn't.
Right.
And
Do we have a process that we know of that I can tell these residents a way to get these pebbles out of their yard? I mean, the first few feet of everyone's yard is covered in rocks and pebbles.
Well, I would tell them, the average homeowner, to get a rake and rake them into the street where we can pick them up instead of having to go onto their lawns.
Well, okay. I mean, that's
That's what I
good,
would-
but I just don't know.
That's what I would do if it was my house. I would rake them. It wouldn't take 15 minutes to rake the rocks back into the driveway. or back into the street. And then we can have a contractor come along and sweep them up.
So I'll tell you what, if you guys would give me or contact the contractor that's gonna come by, so I can make sure that people are aware that the day that they're coming,
You got it.
otherwise they're gonna rake them into the street and it's gonna get blown right back into their
Yep.
their yard.
I'll find
Let me know so I can disseminate that information. Sidewalks, the project on Sunkist.
We've costed that project out. It's going to cost about $45,000 to do that work. You've got enough money left in that project for your area, so I was going to talk to Mike about getting it done. Usually he doesn't have any problem. So I'll
Okay.
talk to him and we can move forward if you'd like.
Yeah, I would love to. That will help out some of that drainage issue on that
Mhm.
corner.
Yeah, we'll fix all that when we do the sidewalk.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
You're welcome.
And that'll Councilman Lawrence?
It's hard to believe that no one mentioned Camille. Yesterday, 51 years ago, totally destroyed the city of Biloxi. Wasn't even mentioned. Everybody worried about Katrina now. You gotta remember, Camille was devastating to the coast. Changed the way we did everything. And then Katrina in 2005 changed it again. It's just hard to believe nobody said anything about it. That's it.
Amen.
I just want to bring that up.
Amen.
Thank you, George. Well, that will conclude council reports. This will move us on to our public agenda, citizens' comments. We have 45 minutes allotted, 3 minutes per person. If anybody in the audience would care to speak, please come forward to the desk, sign your name, state your name and address for the record. Anyone on your right-hand side of the room, my left-hand side of the room, that would care to come up and speak? Is there anybody on the left-hand side of the, again, if you would, please come up, sign in, and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Sabrina May, and I'm here to speak on the agenda of the Second Ward community. I'm just coming here again, like I've been doing for years, and asking for help in the community with our youth. It's getting worse and worse, and it's getting harder and harder. And now that he's here, I can say this. I've been to the police department 3 times to speak to John Miller. I left my name and I left my number and everything. And they said if we see something, do something. So I've been trying to reach out to the chief of police and the detectives and stuff and let them know about these guns that's being in our community with our youth. I've been in the streets for a long time. And I never seen as many automatic pistols and guns in my life before, but within our youth. And they say it's because when I go down there, the police told me it's a lot of house being breaking in and a lot of them from, but I'm not believing that. I never seen in my life. We like just like in danger. I've been street form all my life, but I'm even scared. You know, you can't talk to the kids, you can't talk to nobody, you can't do nothing because the problem has got outrageous, you know. And I just want to know if we can just meet up with maybe some of the councilmen, the chief of police, maybe the mayor or whoever, and see if we can start addressing these situations seriously and more, you know, outreach from the community as best as the officials too, because I just don't know what else to do, you know. And I've been crying, I've been asking, and I really believe that y'all willing to help us with our youth in this situation. Well, now is the time. It's been a time, but now is really the time, you know. I do a lot of functions. I do a lot of fundraising. I gave away book bags. I comb hair. I do, and my oldest child 30, and my baby is 23. It's not about, you know, the who you can to or who whatever. It's about the community. We got to find each other again, and we got to become one again as a community, you know. And it's gonna take a lot of us to do this. So I'm asking while I'm right here if I can get, you know, some kind of confirmation where we can set up a date to meet with the councilman, the mayor, the chief, and whoever we need to meet with and address this situation in the right way, not in the aggressive way, not in a, violent way or nothing like this, and see if we can come to terms and try to fix this situation. That's what I'm asking for today, if I can get some kind of
Thank you,
meeting
Ms.
or
May.
confirmation.
This isn't a question and answer session, but I know Felix Kynes is proud of his ward and would be willing to organize that. Now, it would be disrespectful for any of us to circumvent Felix Kynes' ward, but I know he is a proud proponent of the youth and the ward. He'll communicate with you. I would love to be part of that communication and part of that process. I don't think that there's any portion of the city that none of us want to see do better.
I'll set up a ward meeting.
And that'll be
Thank you, Felix.
just, that'll be
Okay.
just fine with it. That's all I ask.
Thank you, Ms. May.
All right.
Is there anybody else on this side of the room that would care to come up and speak? Would anybody on this side of the room that would care to come forward to speak? If you would, please come forward. State your name and address for the record and sign in.
I've been a little long today. So, my name's John Kemp. My house lives at 178 Hannibal Court, but I live in the city of Biloxi. I'm here today, most of the time I'm here happy and jolly, and it's a little bit somber for me to see our streets in Ward 2 back up and running. I was at a ribbon cutting today. Chamber of Commerce was there cutting the ribbon on a rental assistance social service building. I want to see a ribbon cutting on a business in Ward 2. I know you have an abatement plan for these millionaires on the beach. I beg the city of Biloxi to come up with an abatement plan for Division Street, what I call the Division Street and Main Street corridor. We need help. I am the grandson of this city's first African-American cab company. In 1972, at the corner of Main and Division, my grandfather, Cornelius B. Kemp, had 14 children. He was murdered. Some say because of that. I'm here to beg you, I'm begging you as a city to sit down and think about the Main and Division Street corridor. Not East Biloxi, not downtown Biloxi, the Main and Division Street corridor. I beg you, Councilman Gines, to reconsider 18 months ago when I handed you a resolution drawn up by former Mayor Gerald Blessey to name that recreation department that you have in consideration on Lee Street after my grandparents. My grandfather was the only person that had access to automobiles back during that era. So if you were a child and you needed to get to a ball game, you probably sat in my grandfather's taxi. If you were a child born at one of the hospitals, you probably got transferred back to your home in my grandfather's taxi. If you were a child that needed to go anywhere in that neighborhood, you probably rode in my grandfather's taxi. The fact that you refuse to even put it before your counterparts is a little bit disturbing to me. Now, I held off on coming down here because I thought you were still out. I love your family. We've known each other for decades. I beg you to reconsider your position not to put the resolution forward to name that facility after my grandparents, who not only contributed to this city, but to this entire state. They are cornerstones. My grandmother's name is on the Sovereignty Commission's name for working for the Biloxi Housing Authority. That means that this state thought my grandmother, who made her living in affordable housing, they thought she was a communist. So the fact that you won't even submit that resolution to this council to vote on it is upsetting and disturbing to me. So please reconsider the resolution to name the Recreation Department the Kemp Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp. Do I have anybody else on this side of the room that would care to come up and speak? If you would, come forward. When you get to the table, sign in, state your name and your address for the record.
Good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Wilson. I live at 1093 Cherokee Street here in Biloxi, and I am the general manager for Biloxi Beach Resort Rentals. I'm here today about the ordinance that the city is looking at regarding the sales tax proof for short-term rentals. And though I agree that short-terms need to be monitored and licensed and those things, I do think that the sales tax part of it is not right. I feel that my industry is the only industry that's being asked to prove that their sales tax is paid just to be licensed. I don't think that's fair at all. I would like to work with the city in helping make this ordinance work. I know how the sales tax system works for the Department of Revenue. The TAP system does not break down cities and how you pay what you collect in each city. I pay a lump sum for what I collect in Biloxi and Gulfport. So that's one issue. Another issue is Airbnb and VRBO. These companies were forced to collect sales tax for certain states, Mississippi being one of them. They are required to remit this sales tax on the part of the short-term rental owners. These owners who contract with Airbnb and VRBO do not have access to the sales tax reports for Airbnb and VRBO. So I think there's a lot that we need to work out. I ask that you completely remove this sales tax requirement, or let's table the discussion and find a better way to do this. I think working together with our industry in the city, we can find a better way to monitor our short-term rentals. I just do not think that this sales tax requirement is fair to anyone, those who self-manage or those who come to a management company like myself.
Thank you, Ms. Jacqueline. Do I have anybody else on the side of the room that would care to speak? Anybody in the back of the room? If you would come forward, please state your name and address for the record and sign in.
Okay, my name is Bill Warren. You've seen me before. I live at 936 Savannah Place in Gulfport, and I'm here to talk about short-term rentals. The lady just before me covered about what I wanted to speak about, but I will repeat it. A couple other issues. In gaining permits and licenses and that sort of thing to run a short-term rental is pretty exhaustive. Our operation is we have an LLC, who in turn has 3 condos, apartments, whatever you want to call them. To get a business license, we have to get a business license for each one of those units. I would ask that you consider allowing us to register the LLC with a business license and let it run the business of the condos. Should be a simple thing to do, be simplified on both ends of the paperwork. Let me get rid of this. The second thing is that $100 application fee that you have written into these rules. Now, I've not been able to discern what that's for. Now, in most places where you apply for something, you pay an application fee. That usually makes sense. But now we have a renewal of that application fee. Why do we have a renewal? So somebody should explain that. If they can't, take it out of the rules. My third subject is the sales tax, and that's a mess. Now, Jerry Creel preempted you all 2 months ago, sent us a letter saying this law was in effect. And I've been working 2 months now trying to solve that problem. Now, there's different categories of people out there, as the lady said before me. There's those people who use Airbnb or VRBO, and those facilities take care of all the taxes before us. Back here's a contract we have with Airbnb, many pages long, but it's section 13 in there. It explains and that they take responsibility for sales taxes. However, the rule you're about to pass says you have to prove it. Well, I don't know how you prove it, really. You're going to have to take something on faith, I guess. I do, but not in the office of Jerry Creel. He's telling me they want detailed transactions for a year. And apparently he needs this for some kind of budgeting process. Now, I'm not exactly attuned to doing somebody else's budgeting. I'll provide all the information I have, but we have no information on sales taxes. I have a sales tax license for another business, and it's up to date. I can report that it's fully been paid.
I'm sorry, sir, your time is up.
I'd like to say we'll delete that sales tax provision in
Mr.
that
Warren, your time is up.
document.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the back of the room that would care to speak? If you would please state your name and address for the record and sign in for me.
My name is Bertrand Eason. I'm the founder and owner of an Eason Kelly organization located on 546 Division Street and 544. I've been there before. Hey, Dixie. Back here. Good to see you back, Felix.
Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Popo, Gary, good to see you guys. The young lady came forward previously, was looking for a solution to not just only Ward 2, even though Ward 2 is going through a lot of situations right now. Being new to the business field in this area, it's kind of hard for me. I've been through a lot of transitions. My history is written. We do have solutions that we want to present to the community to let them know that we can work with the children in Ward 2. We can work with them. We can work with the people in Ward 2. We can clean Ward 2 up, and whatever other ward needs to be cleaned up. That's what my organization stands for. We stand for that. We stand for the people. It's not about my history. I'm a convicted felon. I came from that, incarcerated. But look what God has brought me to. I founded and established an establishment. And Mr. Gaines tipped this hat to me. I don't just say I'm gonna do a thing and not do it. That's not manly. But the God in me, it what drives me to do what's right in the community. No matter how a person look at me. It's not about the skin color. It's not about my past. It's about what we can do now. Everything I've heard, it seems like there's rules everywhere. This person can do this thing. This person can't do this thing. This business can do that thing. This business can't do that thing. All these rules. What about the rule God gave us? Love, help. Let's get together and make something happen.
Amen.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I walk by faith, not by sight, and I'm planning to have a faith walk. I've spoke with Councilman Gaines about it. Up through Division, East Biloxi, cross the tracks. It don't matter. Let's clean up the community together. I got the solution in this briefcase, written. I know I had 3 minutes last time. I'm not going to take advantage of it this time. Felix gave me 5. I ain't going to take advantage of that. But the solution is in here. I have business cards in my briefcase. You guys are welcome to come down to our establishment. Please come out. Let's start there. Let's do a ribbon cutting there. Let's get East Biloxi back in place. Let's get Biloxi back in place. I'm finished.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. If you would please state your name and address and sign in for me.
everybody. My name is Jermaine Williams. I'm from Biloxi, Mississippi, born and raised in Bayview, Holmes. I now reside 517 Keller and Elster Boulevard. I ain't never ever really been in this building in my life. I ain't never did nothing like this. I don't know how to talk sophisticated or none of that. But my main agenda today is I want y'all to see what is in my neighborhood. This is me, the stereotype. Black man, gold teeth. I done been in prison, the whole nine. But what people don't see, I'm educated. When I was in prison, I got 3 degrees. I became a cook, worked at the Beauvage and several establishments. And I am the voice that y'all can't be. That's my whole agenda. The people that I see, and I'm raised around, the people that I can influence and I can talk to, they won't talk to y'all. They'll talk to me because I can change some of the things that they're going through. When they hurting, they don't have nowhere to go, no job, nowhere to get a job. All we see is crack, weed, and guns. That's it. It ain't no ifs, ands, or buts, ain't no sugarcoat, no nothing. That's what it is. When I leave here, I'm going to the same neighborhood that I'm describing to y'all about. It ain't no, I know y'all know all about it. Y'all know all the rough ends and all that's a rerun. But this is what I'm trying to enlighten y'all, just like she's the female voice. Okay, I'm the male voice, and I'm gonna let y'all know what it really is. The only way that we can change what's going on in this neighborhood that I live in every day, we first have to give them same children the opportunity that I had when I was growing up, going to the yellow gym or to the gym on Division Street, which we call the red gym, or being able to go shoot some pool or go swimming and just all the little stuff that's been stripped from these guys. When these guys leave their house, they don't have nowhere to go but to the street. Go hang on the mules or and even our parks. You know how frustrating that is for me as a black man in my community. Grew up in this neighborhood. Watched friends die, all kind of stuff in this neighborhood. This is the park I've been going to all my life. Now I can't hang in my own park in my own community. Now I can't go to the same things that I live the same life that I used to live. Everything is took away from us, but people expect for us not to live how we, you ain't giving them a choice. What kind of choices you giving these people? And now unemployment is gone now. So now where the money coming from? I've been working for a Galat factory for the last 14 years for Mr. Wally Galat. I can't go to my job. I want to, but they working 1 or 2 days a week. How am I supposed to feed my family? You tell me. So the questions I ask y'all ask yourself if you was in that position, how would you do it?
Thank you for your comments.
Thank y'all for listening to me.
If you would please state your name and address for the record and sign in for me.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings. Excuse me. Greetings, everyone. Felix, it's great to see you in great health. As far as your family, too, we've been praying for you, lifting you up. Thank you for all that you've been doing for the community. Billy Powell is my name, born and raised Biloxi, Mississippi. I'm not going to say too much. I'm not accustomed to speaking on this platform here, but I'm gonna do it because it needs to be done. Won't take up too much of your time because everyone else has said everything that I want to say, and they just didn't say it today. They've been saying it for generations to generation to generations. You guys are always directing us back to the same step one, to go to the councilman. and that's not working. The old tactics is old tactics that you guys are continuing to send us back to as far as the east side and Ward 2 of Biloxi. And you guys, we don't have to tell you guys, sit up here and tell you guys what's going on with Ward 2, because all of you in here is very aware of what's going on with Ward 2. And to come in here and sit and talk about things that you already know and look for answers is ludicrous, because again, this is tactics that's been going on for generation to generation in Ward 2. Myself and a team has put together an agenda for Ward 2 by people that's from Ward 2. Who better knows what's good for Ward 2 than the civilians that lives in Ward 2? Our ancestors have shed blood, sweat, tears, and even died for Ward 2. And here our grandkids and kids have nothing to go to in Ward 2. Who is responsible for putting the people over Ward 2 that's not even from Ward 2 to make decisions for Ward 2? Based on the decisions that are being made from Ward 2, it doesn't take a genius to figure out whoever's making the decisions for Ward 2 doesn't care for Ward 2. Ward 2 is exempt from the rest of Biloxi, Mississippi. We have put together an agenda that we're going to be presenting to you guys here soon. We ask that you honor it. We ask that you not direct our agenda to Felix. It's lining up with everything that Felix stands on. And so we ask that in presenting this agenda to you guys here soon, that you guys just doesn't look at it and move it to the side. We are forming the unity and community back, that our voices may be heard. We organizing peaceful protesters. There was 3 13-year-olds here just earlier this part of the week that was playing with guns. 2 of them have been charged with manslaughter. The other is incarcerated.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. If you would come forward and state your name and address for the record and sign in for me.
My name is LaShawn Smith, and all I wanted to say was Second Ward, the ones that are over Second Ward is not for Second Ward, meaning us, the people out there. Because I have a 21-year-old son that was murdered by the Gulfport PD, NAACP councilman. Ain't nobody from Second Ward had nothing to say about to LaShawn Smith, but I waited over the statute of limitation. But my mind and everything was gone for a while. But I would want to fight for Second Ward, for things to change, especially with the guns, with the kids. I'm down with that. And all I want is justice for my son, because I have 650 major pictures of an autopsy. Best forensic autopsy in the world. And my grandkids scared. Anytime they hear police, see police. And that's not good, because y'all supposed to be here to protect us. They're for us. I don't want them to be scared of the police. I have family that's in the police department. All I want is justice for my son and help for myself and get myself back together. I love Second Ward, but I too don't want anything. I don't want anything ran through Felix or the NAACP man, Mr. Corwell. That's all I have to say. And y'all have a blessed day.
Thank you, you too. Do you have anybody else that would care to speak? Well, this will conclude our public comments. We'll move to the policy agenda, Ordinance A.
Ordinance to amend the LDO specifically for regulations pertaining to short-term rental and timeshare uses.
Thank you. This was originally moved by Team Tisdale Lawrence. Paul Tisdale, you have the floor.
Thank you. So I'm just looking at my notes, and my summary says that This pertains to the daily rental of dwelling units in single-family residential districts, which would be prohibited. Mr. Creel, correct me if I'm not accurate in my comments. The short-term rentals may be authorized as conditional uses in neighborhood business, RM20 and RM30. Short-term rentals are not permitted in limited business or any single-family zones. And short-term rentals are prohibited by any tenant or lessee in the city's harbors or marinas. Then there's a limitation that would be imposed, which will prohibit the converting of any established apartment complex, either by individual units or in total, to short-term rentals via the conditional use process. We've struggled with that over the last couple of years, I believe. These are presently authorized for properties located in RM20 or RM30, which is multifamily residential. And then, as was noted by one of the citizens earlier, the short-term rentals have to provide proof that sales tax records to the Department of Revenue have been submitted and that a guest register has been maintained. Does that pretty much sum it up, Mr. Creel, or
Yes, sir.
did I miss anything?
What this is, a month ago, when the council considered removing short-term rental as conditional uses in RM20 and RM30, and that proposal failed for lack of a majority, these changes were also in that same ordinance, but they were changes that we had been informed needed to be incorporated into the overall ordinance. The failure for lack of a majority allowed RM20 and RM30 to remain in the ordinance as it was. We had these changes in there, and what we're doing now is bringing them back. The only one that was not in there a month ago is the one about the conversion, and that was brought up at the last meeting that we could address the conversion separately. So we did go back and add that paragraph in there, but all the other ones were in there with what came about a month ago. Now, as far as the letter that Mr. Warren referred to that we sent out, I did send out a letter a month ago, and it was all about timing. The middle of August of every year is when we send out the renewal notices to everybody that has a business license in the city of Biloxi that it's time to renew their business license. So what we did is send out a letter in anticipation of this being passed last month, that this would be the requirements for short-term rentals to be renewed, that you would have to submit proof of your sales tax revenue, which we've talked about many times. We've had some people that have already gotten their renewal notices and have already come in and renewed and submitted the sales tax information. I've looked at least a dozen yesterday and today that show the unit number, the dates that it was reserved, and the amount of sales tax paid. We're not trying to find out how much the people are making off of the rentals. We just want to know that their sales taxes have been paid. Where we seem to have the most problems or the most complaints are with the people who either manage or own many units, that it's going to be very complicated for them to put that information together. But we are getting it from the ones who have, 1 to 5 to 10 units. So it is possible to get this information from the Mississippi Department of Revenue, because that's where most of the documents that I've looked at have come from. You probably need to also understand that a number of these units are owned by non-residential owners, people who are not residents of the city of Biloxi. They live in other states. We have some that are owned by people in Vermont and California and other places. And there needs to be some mechanism in place to make sure that we're getting those sales taxes paid, some document that they can provide to make sure. The conversion issue speaks for itself, the change there. The application fee is already in the ordinance, the reapplication fee. That's in there. That's not a change. So when the initial application, when somebody comes in, costs a total of $170. It's $100 for the application fee. It's $50 for the certificate of occupancy fee, which we have to send the fire department out to inspect the unit to make sure that there's not any life safety issues there. And then there is a $20 business license fee that we take, and it's $20. We have no control over that. That's controlled by the state. So I had a very spirited conversation with Mr. Warren the other day, and he was explaining to me how it was impossible to get this information. But we're getting it from other people. We're getting it from other short-term rental owners. I did mention to him that a part of the reason that we needed this is because that every year we go through a budget process, and, we have to anticipate what revenues are coming in, and that this is a mechanism as part of that to determine what type of revenues do we anticipate coming in that we can count on that's coming from the short-term rental industry. And I really believe that y'all need that information. The mayor needs that information, and y'all need that information in order to make projections for the upcoming year. So that's what we're looking at. These are just, other than the conversion clause, these are things that were in that ordinance last month that failed for lack of a majority that we're just bringing back to get them into the ordinance. And it's for your consideration. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Councilman Tisdale has the floor.
Just one other comment. I've tried to attend the community court sessions when I can, and I've noticed that there have been several violations that have been heard in that court. And I think the judge and the prosecutor do a very good job, but it's nice and comforting to know that, of course, one of the reasons we have to have ordinances like this is because there are people out there that are gaming the situation and continue to game the situation. But I just want to put in a good word for community court. They're doing a good job, and whoever monitors short-term rentals, I think it may be Frederick, and it takes up a good bit of his time. It's time intensive. He's doing a good job. That's all. Thank you.
And just to point out one thing, the cases that we have in community court are cases where the people are operating without a license. In other words, they're operating in single-family residential zoning. They don't have a license, and they can't get a license unless the zoning changes on the piece of property. So they're just continuing to operate in violation of the ordinance, and that's the reason they're in court.
Councilman Lawrence.
My problem's always been the same thing. How do we prove we ever collect the money from sales taxes that paid to Airbnb or anybody else? You just said that people don't live here. How do we ever get the money back that we supposed to be collecting for sales taxes?
Well,
is there a better way to do what we're doing?
Okay. If Airbnb is paying the sales taxes for those units, that information has to be reported back to the Mississippi Department of Revenue. And these other owners of these units are able to obtain that information as the owner of the unit. So the owner of the unit should be able to get the information either from the agency that they're registered with or be able to get it as the owner from the Mississippi Department of Revenue. We can't get it from the Department of Revenue due to privacy laws. They won't give that information to us. But the owner of the unit certainly should be able to get that information and provide it to us.
Well, that's my problem. How are you going to prove any of that? You have no clue. You get a check back to the state. You don't even know what it's for. Might be 300 short-term rentals. Might not be any of them. That's been a problem from the beginning. Both folks stated, I've been saying the same thing. We'll never figure anything as far as sales taxes from any of these things. Why is the homeowner going to do that and come back and say, yeah, Airbnb sent you a check to Jackson. Did we get it? How do we prove that? And you said you have no access to that. You can't do that. So it's got to be the owner.
We're already getting that information from some of the condo owners. I mean, the documents that have been brought in last week and this week where people are renewing their license are showing the dates that the units they own, the dates that the units were reserved, and out to the side, it shows the amount of taxes that were paid to rent that unit for that period of time. So we are getting that information from some of the unit owners that are already renewing. Now, in renewing a business license every year, there are some people that will pay on time, they'll renew it on time, and then there are some people that drag it out right to the absolute end. They're supposed to have their license, their business license renewed so that it's in effect by October the 1st. And that's the reason that we send out those notices in the middle part of August, is to give them adequate time to renew the business license. And again, some of the people have already sent in the information we need. Frederick has come to my office at least a dozen times this week.
We're talking about the sales taxes.
Right.
We're not talking about the information.
I'm
You
sorry?
said you had 300 units of short-term rentals.
Yes, sir.
How much money have we collected on 300 units of sales taxes that you can show me?
That's what we're putting together right now, so that we can provide that information to the mayor and to the council, is how much we're collecting this year when they renew their licenses.
So how are you going to do that? How are you going to prove it?
Well, the first thing we have to do is collect the
You
documentation.
can prove what they paid. I'm talking about us getting it back. The state, city of Biloxi.
Well, if they paid the sales tax, that comes back to us in a yearly report, a monthly report, the report that I showed to the mayor just recently. Every month, the sales tax revenues come out about the 17th or 18th of the month, and we're told what the total of all those collections are. And so if we're getting a document from the Mississippi Department of Revenue showing that a certain amount of taxes was paid to the Department of Revenue, it's included in that monthly report that we get back around the 17th of the month.
Is that monthly report itemized? Can you tell if it's Mr. John? Well, Mr. Mayor, respectfully, one moment. And I think what he's getting at is there's no way to verify that we're receiving sales tax receipts from any of these businesses. And if we're requiring John Smith, whatever, Jane Doe, to tell us that they're paying sales tax, we don't know that that money is actually being returned to us because we're not getting an itemized report from the state. Two, it's a burden that you're putting on this one business entity, and you're assuming that the aggregate total includes theirs, but every other business in this city isn't required to do the same thing. And so we don't know. When we see that number as an aggregate, that doesn't ensure us that this was actually or wasn't paid, because it's an aggregate total and not an itemized statement of every single taxpayer in the state or the city. Is it not?
Let me answer that question, if you don't mind. It's a diversion. That dollarization that you just showed me, 1.03 million, represents 18%, 18.5% of all the gross sales. 7% is diverted back. So you can do that arithmetic. What's further complicated is that if these people operate down here on the coast, there's a 5% additional on top of that goes to offset 2.75 of that is to the debt service for the Coliseum, and 2.25 of it is for the operation of a coastal Mississippi. So these numbers can't be reconciled. They just take it on faith. What the Sales Tax Commission has the capability of doing, if the owners ask, give me a TAP report, which says gross sales in the 4 TAP reports, and that's it. Then they proved that they know, where they are, and that they've collected it, and they're going to collect not only the 18.5% that owes to the city of Biloxi, but also to the Coliseum, that additional 5%. Now, and it's just not this. We don't have a reconciliation of anything. That we take it on faith that represents the duly collected sales tax against gross sales to any entity in the city of Biloxi. There's an obstacle. It's called the State Tax Commission that has a problem with releasing information.
Every one of these entities is registered with the Secretary of State, correct?
Yes,
In order to get
the licensed ones, because when they pull their business license with us, we have to report that to the state.
Right, and so the State Tax Commission is the one that's responsible for collecting state taxes. My question isn't how important the money is. I understand how important the money is. My question is why? Why are we imposing this regulation on this one sector of our economy? If determining that someone's paying taxes is so important. Why is not every one of these businesses
You know, let me
doing
tell you,
the same thing?
let me tell you where the rub comes in is, again, that 5% on top of 7%. How many hotel rooms do we have here? 6,400 in the city of Biloxi. What does that do to reducing the debt and paying for the operation of coastal Mississippi? That was the rub. You heard when all these things were coming about. Hey, we don't know what they're doing. They're avoiding the people who are not licensed. We're not so much, the whole picture of the thing. They're avoiding some things, and that was the purpose in trying to make sure that everybody's on the playing field with regard to the other hotels and motels and those kinds of things. 6,500 of them.
If the goal is to make sure that everybody's on the same playing field, then shouldn't we put everyone on that same playing field?
Well,
shouldn't we equally apply these rules and regulations to all of them?
Let's think about that. You got 6,500 hotel rooms, and they have a report. They have a report every month when they do their TAP report on the distribution that goes to those places. So you're trying to put everybody in the same, playing field. That's where the effort was.
Do they provide that TAP report to the city?
No.
Why not?
Because they don't, we're asking these folks to do it voluntarily.
And that's monitored by
Well, they're not being asked to do it voluntarily.
Association.
They're being coerced to do it, or they don't get a license. It's not voluntary.
If it's an effort to do what you don't, there's a problem. There's a big problem, and not just this thing. There's a big problem. We don't know that we're getting our shake from the state tax commission, because there's no reconciliation from those businesses that are supposed to be diverting that 18.5 cents of their sales tax that's been collected to the city. I mean, it's not just that problem, it's a big problem. But this was an effort to say, at least we can say, these people are doing what the hotels have been doing.
Well, what we allege the hotels have been doing, because we don't have a report from the hotels that demonstrate that they have or have not been doing that. And that's my question. My concern is just that we fairly and equally apply this rule and regulation. And I hate the idea that we pick and choose and tell certain people, in order to get a permit, you have to do something that other people in this city don't have to do. And I think that's just unfair. I think it's
okay. Well, what are you going to
equitable.
respond to those people who are paying those 5%? How can you ensure that those people who are paying the 5%, are not getting the same consideration? The hotels have been doing this.
We think.
No, they have.
No, the
Do
hotel.
Do we have any evidence that every single hotel,
Linda,
none of them
one-
have ever done anything that has skirted the rules or the law? None of them have ever taken something off the books. None of them have ever done anything. If you're going to tell me that every single one, anytime someone uses an adjective that compounds every single entity of every little group into some generality, it's false. You can't say that everybody has done everything exactly right all the time, because that's just unrealistic to believe that.
Let me respond to part of that. If you'll recall, when the short-term rental ordinance came out and people started doing short-term rentals, the big rub from the Hotel Motel Association was that we can verify that the hotels, motels are paying their sales taxes. We can't verify that the short-term rentals.
And the 5%.
That's right.
How can we verify that?
How can we verify?
How can we verify that? I'm asking you.
You
stated we can verify that the hotels are paying it. I'm asking you, how can we verify that?
We're verifying it by the document that the people are providing to us from the Mississippi Department of Revenue, documents that we've already received.
Does that document itemize who you're receiving that money from?
It is, yes, it is.
Then you
Because
could do the
it's
same thing
specific-
for these.
It is specific to the license that's being renewed. The people come in with their renewal application, and they fill out their application again, and they attach the documents to it from the Mississippi Department of Revenue that shows these are the units we have, these are the dates that it was reserved during the past year, and on each individual reservation, it shows the taxes that were paid.
Who are you referring to right now? Which group of people were you just explaining?
It's individual owners that
Of
have
what?
these things.
Of what?
Of short-term rentals.
No, I'm not asking you what, because of this new regulation, I'm asking you about hotels and motels. How do we determine and verify that they're actually paying their share?
I thought I just stated that. That's being verified by the Hotel Motel Association, who makes sure that they're paying their taxes. That's where we get that
I was
information
the Hotel and
from.
Motel Association verifying that they're paying
I
their
don't know that, but I'm taking Linda Hornsby at her word.
Let me
because-
say,
Well, my question is, if we're taking people at their word, but we're not going to take the average citizen at their word, if we're going to tell the average person we don't believe you or trust you, but we'll take everybody else at their word, I find that disheartening.
Well, I would think that the Hotel Motel Association is the agency that makes sure that everybody's playing on the same playing field. And if there were someone that were not paying their taxes, the Hotel Motel Association would be the first ones to scream.
Can we have someone in here from the Hotel and Motel
I
Association?
do know that there is a business association and there's a restaurant association, and I'm not in either one of those, and so they ain't regulating nothing.
Can I say,
let me say,
can I,
you're making some things that are complicated.
Let me acknowledge the mayor.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
The TAP report, you do everything's automated, okay? With one, you do you have no choices. It's not paper anymore. You do this in an automated fashion. With one download, with one print copy, you can get every month that you do a TAP report, you can print that and hand that over. It's not like, you want to know, hey, I paid so much taxes on so much gross sales, and that's the end of the story. If you do that, I think that would be
Felix,
accountable.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, Felix, will you grab Ms. Jacqueline's report out so I can review it?
can I interject something?
Thank you.
Can I say something, Robert? The difference is the hotel is registered with TAPS. If you don't file your TAPS report every month, they fine you, and everything is, they're taking your report by faith anyway, just taking your word for it. The only way that they verify or don't verify is if they come and audit you.
Exactly.
I mean, you own a business, you know that. And so you file a report every month, and then it says, I brought in this much from sales in the state of Mississippi and this much sales tax. Here's my money, I submit it. And it's the same thing. They're taking your word for it unless for some reason there's some funny business that doesn't add up, and then they come and audit you. That's the only way that they can verify what you're putting in that TAPS report is true or not.
So
I think the issue here lies is, and I don't know, Ms. Wilson, am I allowed to address her or ask her to?
Absolutely.
Okay, can I ask you a question? Is most of your rentals done through
Hold on a second.
Airbnb
Ms.
or
Wilson,
VRBO?
will you please come forward and grab a microphone and state your name for us and tell us who you are?
Jacqueline Wilson.
And if you would point, I don't know if you're okay with this. I don't want to suggest that you do anything that you're not comfortable with, but it's hard to understand you with the microphone with the
But that's
mask
fine.
on.
I'm just making sure y'all,
Thank you.
on rolls.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
many units do you represent?
I manage 200 units between Biloxi and Gulfport. The
Okay,
majority of them are in Biloxi.
Okay, in Biloxi, approximately how many?
I would say 90 of them are in Biloxi, maybe 100.
Okay, and of those units, how many of those are through VRBO or Airbnb?
What we do is, we are a mini platform, so we are a management company. We book, we have maintenance, and we have housekeeping. We have our own website that you can book through us. We contract with a third-party reservations company that actually works with Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, Expedia, all those large websites.
Okay,
We're different than the average single short-term rental owner, because when we work with this third-party agency, they collect the money for us, but it is the total. So if the reservation totals $1,500, okay, that includes all of our fees. 180 should be collected in sales tax. It's 12%. You have the 7 sales and you have the 5.
and so do they give you that, so when you get,
They
let's just
give
say,
us
for
the
instance, I go
total.
on your website and I reserve a room directly through your website. But it's through a third-party booking agency.
Well, you wouldn't go directly to our website. You would go through the third party. So if you were on Booking.com,
Okay,
it would
so-
be their website,
And so
then
that
they,
just is tied into your system
their
somehow.
back end is tied into
And
ours.
so you get a report saying, I made a $1,500 reservation, this so much is for the cleaning fee, this much is for whatever, this much
Yes.
is for taxes.
So on my reservations, it's broken down by how much sales tax was collected for rent, cleaning fees, damage waiver fees, resort fees, all those things. So when we collect from the third-party site, that would be like Airbnb or VRBO, we collect the total of the reservation. So if it's $1,500, we collect that $1,500, I remit the sales tax. So the owners who are contracted with me, in our legal contract, it says that we are required to collect all money and remit all sales tax on behalf of these owners. If I get audited, it's me getting audited, not my 200 owners.
So on all the units that you do, you pay to TAPS every month?
Correct, and this is.
Okay, so,
You file a TAP report?
This is.
Yeah, and I pay over $1 million a year in
That's a
sales
tap
tax.
so
This is,
This-
but
a
this
tax
is,
report should be adequate.
However.
this is why I pass this around. You cannot determine the itemization
Okay.
of that tax report.
So on
Look at it.
line 7 is how much is collected for sales tax.
Right.
Line,
Sales figure on the TAP.
But it's not.
this is a
So, I mean, that-
printout
that-
from tax.
I think that should be
Hold
adequate.
on, hold on. It's not unit specific. And so,
Correct, it's not unit
so
specific.
what
It's not
portions?
city specific.
How many units do you have in Biloxi?
I have 90 to 100 in
How many
Biloxi.
units do you have in Gulfport?
About the same, they're half and
So,
half.
so it's,
That's right. I'm required by the state of Mississippi to collect under one
Here's-
sales
here's-
tax ID as a lump sum
the
dollar
way
amount.
every other one of us does this, every other retail business, everybody doesn't pay sales tax. When we file with the city, which I don't know if Biloxi requires or not, other cities I've had to show my retail license, and I had to show that I'm licensed and registered with TAPS, and the state sends me a letter. If they don't get my taxes, they send me a letter of what they think I owe them, and I better either prove that I don't owe them that or I pay that. And that's how we regulate sales tax in Mississippi. Each city.
So,
We don't regulate anything. What they do is submit this thing, and that gets diverted. I mean, it's not more complicated than showing that amount, that little report
But
off the TAP
here's the
account to
problem.
accommodate anything. Not a big deal. You got to do this automated anyhow.
But here's the
This is
problem.
complicated a little bit because you got it spread over 300 units over a couple of cities.
Yes, for
But
me,
I don't
it's
think
more
we'd
complicated.
have to
than
break
that.
Hold
down.
on, order.
But for the,
Mayor,
I'm
finish.
sorry.
Let Mr. Mayor finish. No, you were in the middle of talking, everyone cut you off. If you'd like to
Well, I
continue.
mean, this is a TAP report. You can justify that this tax has been paid. I can't say that it's been diverted back to the city of Biloxi because I have no reconciliation with the sales tax commission to my check that I get every, and that's not just to everything. We got how many 3,000 businesses in Biloxi that we need to say somebody just gives you a check for $1 million. Is that right? I don't know if it's right. And there's no way to reconcile it. This is two separate issues, but it's no more complicated than having somebody download these things on a monthly basis to kind of reconcile it, right? Because it's all automated.
So, Mr. Creel, Mr. Mayor, is that piece of paper, even though it's not unit-specific, it doesn't really demonstrate anything of any value to the city of Biloxi, is that acceptable to you? Does that comply with the ordinance?
It shows the gross amount of sales that took place in those businesses, even though it shows more.
It shows the gross amount of sales that this entity has paid to the state
and how
for
much
some
taxes they
unknown
paid.
purpose.
But the problem is when you have someone who is a owner by themselves that doesn't contract with me, they contract with Airbnb or VRBO, they are standing in as a management company just like I would, those two platforms. I am not going to give my owners a detailed list of my sales tax. This is my sales tax. It's my responsibility. If I'm late, I pay the fees, not them. So with Airbnb, I don't know if you still have that paperwork, but I got on another owner's own personal Airbnb, and you can see a printout where it shows how much his reservations were and how much tax was held out of that, which they are required to remit. So, though my report is sufficient, it won't show you what happened in Biloxi and Gulfport. I could probably do that for you in an Excel spreadsheet. It'd take some time, but I could do it. But the people who contract with Airbnb and VRBO, you're going to have a real problem because they don't have access to this, and they're not going to get access
Now,
to this.
whoever's responsible for paying the tax is going to fill out one of these pieces of paper, even though it may be lumped into every short-term rental in the state. This is automated, okay? This could be done. There's an obstacle with those two because they preempted everything. We have no, just like Uber, they preempted everything, and you got to deal with it. Jacqueline's exactly right. There is a big problem. We're taking everything on faith from the ways that's being collected.
Well, this is a state sales tax. Do we have do we have a requirement to demonstrate that you are registered with TAPS or that you're registered with a retail license in Biloxi? I know other cities, and look, I have businesses in a bunch of different
Well,
cities,
it's-
so I don't recall which ones I filed what papers where, but I know in the majority of the papers that we filed for our business license in those, our privileged license in those cities, we had to demonstrate that we have a retail
You have a
sales tax license.
account,
Right.
that's right, yeah.
And then TAPS or the Department of Revenue checks up on us every quarter. So do we have that requirement in Biloxi? Does every retail business, are they required to demonstrate that they have a retail license and they're registered with TAPS?
I mean,
To-
some businesses don't need a sales tax number to get a privileged license. Yeah.
Who doesn't?
Some businesses do not.
They don't, but those that generate sales, we should require that they have this,
And I think they do.
that they have a business
They
license.
do. You have a sales tax number, which gets you to the tap.
But here's the problem, once again, you're taking the right away from those people who self-manage to use Airbnb and VRBO. People who self-manage don't have their own websites. They might have a Facebook page, but that's relatively, affordable when you're boosting your own post. But when you're trying to rent your own vacation rental, you have to be on the internet. So if you're not with a management company like myself, you're on one of those platforms. And they take the sales tax. There is no option to opt out of the sales tax. It is a requirement. So if you make this a requirement, you're not letting these people have the right to manage their unit how they see fit. You're forcing them to go with the management company or not have a short-term rental at all.
So
That's
let
the
me
problem.
let me ask a quick question. So you got two things going here. You manage some of the properties, you pay the taxes, you file it duly. Then you have other owners that contract with the other platforms, and
Directly.
they pay the taxes for
Correct.
the owner. Therefore, the owner can't submit anything.
Correct.
So that's what they're trying to say here. So can we simply, at least in this case, at least get the information that we can from those taxes that she is paying? I don't know how to solve the other thing because they're saying Airbnb, you do it, send me a check, and you pay all the taxes on my behalf. And that's the difficult thing here.
Well, part of the reason, all right, part of the reason that we did it this way was so that we'd be dealing with real numbers that we could actually make projections on. We had some people that when they sent in their renewal, sent in a letter from Airbnb that just said, yes, the taxes have been paid on this unit. That doesn't tell us anything except that Airbnb is verifying that taxes have been paid on it. The mayor wanted real numbers where he could make real projections as a part of this. But the council, if you'll think back, ever since this short-term rental thing came up, the big question that has always been asked, how do we know these people are paying the taxes?
And
that
I'm
they're supposed to be
100%.
Licensed and unlicensed.
Director,
Licensed and unlicensed.
I'm 100% with you, but you tell me how we're going to get Airbnb or VRB or whatever, how we're going to get them to give us that information.
That's a problem because they preempted. They preempted everything.
That's right.
So, I mean, that is a problem that we can't solve it with this thing. But, those cases that if somebody collects the taxes, they can produce this one-page report, then that's sufficient.
I understand how we can get her information.
Yeah.
But the ones in the cloud are not. They're not apparent.
HomeAway does have a government liaison. I met with him last September when we went to our conference in Las Vegas. I'll be happy to reach out with them
No,
because HomeAway owns VRBO and
She's
other
my niece, so I don't mean to preempt her. But
Don't tell everybody.
But let me tell you. Let me tell you. The place
I
to
knew that one, that Popo.
Huh? Let me tell you where the problem is. Where they are, at the state tax commission with those exact questions. I don't know the volumes, but we need to have a conversation. Frierson, I think, just retired. But that conversation, as well as the state auditor, and I've had these conversations with him, we don't know. How can we know? And it's not just this industry. It's every industry. There's no reconciliation. We don't know that somebody in our business is providing that sales tax information in the city of Biloxi or the city of D'Iberville or the city of Gulfport's getting that diversion. They're paying the taxes, but our diversion is not reconciled. Our effort is and Uber's the same thing, okay? We got Uber folks coming in from Mobile, and basically the things that should be paid, we don't know where it's going. There's no reconciliation of these kinds of preemptive companies.
Well, Mr. Mayor, that's kind of my point. And Mr. Barrett's going to talk about it, but I think you send one check to TAPS, right? You sent one check to the state.
That's right, for
So-
all money collected.
So they don't, the state has no clue of
Well,
where
yeah,
to
they
divert.
do, and they do. So, I mean, it's not more complicated than printing this piece of paper off your TAP account. I mean, this is not complicated.
That's not, my point is, if we are concerned with getting our diversion of that money, if being diverted to the city of Biloxi, how does the state know to divert what portion of that money to Biloxi versus what portion to
My
Gulfport?
business is registered in Gulfport. Even though I have lots of properties in Biloxi, when I fill out a business license, I'm in Gulfport. So I do understand his concerns.
No.
But the state tax commission, the way the TAP system is built is
Mr. Mayor.
one sales tax code, and
Right.
I pay under sales tax. It doesn't tell you what city I've collected it in. So yeah, that's a whole different
doesn't
issue.
tell you-
Y'all got to work with the
No,
state
I
on
mean,
that. That's not
I mean-
out of my
So
ballpark.
that's
But
my
I'm saying
point.
that's the point. I mean to belabor this, but it's all automated. It's all
Mr. Mayor,
capable of
I don't want to
downloading and
belabor
reconciling.
this, but my point is, if she comes in and shows us that thing, that helps us not predict our sales, that doesn't help us determine what our diversion is, because that is a compilation of
What do
all
you
of
mean
her
it doesn't
sales.
take, it shows how much
Yeah, but
gross
this
sales.
is-
That
but
shows how
she's
much she's
registered
paid in
in
state.
Gulfport.
All of
I
my
would-
stores.
willing to bet that
I don't
100%
care
of
if
that's
you're
going
doing it for annual. I mean,
I'd be willing
you
to
give me
bet
that
that
gross sales stuff.
I mean, if you want that,
I
I'll
mean,
give you
that's all.
my,
If everybody would do that, like Jacqueline is gracefully done, that's all we need.
That
okay?
doesn't help anything.
Here we go.
Yes, it does.
That-
Yes, it
oh,
does.
wait.
If I know your gross sales, I can do the arithmetic on how much money I'm supposed to get for out of that.
ballpark figure, I guess.
So wait, so if somebody has 500 units in the state,
And what did they pay last year in
and they
gross
paid
sales?
$2 million in it last year,
Well,
how do we
in
determine
the
what
state-
portion?
in the
Well,
state,
hold on,
if they're
one
in
person at a
Biloxi.
time, Mr. Mayor. Let me pose the question, and then you present the answer. If they have 500 units in the state, and they pay $2 million to the state, how does it help us determine what our diversion percentage would be?
doesn't.
That doesn't.
But-
That's my
but
point
if she tells
exactly.
me how many
It
units there are in
doesn't.
Biloxi, okay, I can make my case with them, and that it's exactly the situation. She's paying taxes on 300 of them, and she's registered in Gulfport. How do I know I'm getting my diversion?
Well, and I have a sophisticated
No, no,
where I
not
can
going
print.
to.
No, this is not sophisticated. This is a
No, I'm
diversion
saying
that
I
you
can-
collect the money
yeah.
from, goes up to Jackson. How am I supposed to know he's coming
I
coming
can
back?
give you what is
No, you can't
collected
give
in
me-
Biloxi.
You can't give me what's it's supposed to be. You can't tell
No.
me it has, and that's our problem.
No, I can tell you what was collected on my behalf in Biloxi every month. But this is
It's not
total. This is Biloxi and Gulfport. So if you want it for budgeting stuff, I can easily print, it's 200 pages, but I can print it for you every month.
The source is the state of Mississippi, and we've got to hammer out a way, not just for this industry, all industry.
Why don't we just require a unique retail license for the city of Biloxi? That would give us a direct
Well,
determination of how much is being generated in Biloxi.
Well, isn't one issue, are the short-term rentals paying all the applicable
yeah, they pay.
taxes?
That's right. Both licensed and unlicensed.
In the city
Licensed and
that they're
unlicensed.
collecting the tax in, and I think the mayor's making that point. How do we?
Are we getting
know that
credit?
The Biloxi properties we're getting our taxes in Biloxi, and they're not all going to Gulfport.
That's exactly my point as well. I think we're arguing the same thing. If we're trying to accomplish the goal of generating the ability to determine how much sales tax is being paid in the city of Biloxi, so we get the right amount from Jackson, we've got to figure out how to actually accomplish that task. Putting some rule or regulation in place that we don't really know that it's going to have the impact, it's a waste of our time and their energy and probably their money, because they're going to have to hire more resources to accomplish these goals. Why not do something that would actually work? Like require them to generate a specific sales tax, a TAPS registration for just their business entities. I mean, I can take my business, I can get a retail license for the Biloxi store, I can get a retail license for the Gulfport store, I can get a retail license for the Pascagoula store, and then I can determine exactly how much I've paid in sales tax in each one of those cities. Instead of having to do it that way, then you would be able to require the state to provide an accounting of all of those Biloxi licenses.
You can't require the state, that's the issue. I mean, if we could require them to give us a download, then we'd be cool, okay? But they're not gonna do that. There's a fight to come.
Well, that's because they can't even do that. They can't give you a download of the taxes that I've paid in Biloxi or Gulfport or Pascagoula. They
Oh,
cannot do
yes,
that.
they can.
I stroke them a
I
check.
know, yeah, you can, you cut them a check on your
One
tap
check.
record. You cut them a check every month.
may I
If you
ask
don't do it before the 20th, there's an automated way to get us a reconciliation. We might take the state auditor to help us do that, but there's gonna be some sort of, let's get this right. Because I can't swear that it's right, and I don't want to leave anything on the table.
So
Let me say this for, I want.
Well, I had the floor.
Okay, we collect about $1 million a month, okay? And sales tax a month. That represents 18.5% of the dollars that are generated in this city goes to the state. Okay, that means we send $66 million up there, and they send us, 12 back.
A month.
12, yeah, 1 million a month, 12 million a year. They send 66 million up there. Somebody's collecting 66 million. Okay, and I just want a fair shake. And I want to be comfortable that I'm getting a fair shake. Now, that's all I got to say.
So this is, in this, you have three different scenarios. You have the scenario of someone like her, then you have, and she has a TAPS account. The other scenario is you have VRBO, Airbnb, all those places. Now, the people who use them to represent, they are just representatives of that company, or they use them as a platform. And so Airbnb, VRBO falls under what you call nexus laws. If you have a certain amount of representatives in a state, even though they don't directly work for your company, you're required to, and Mississippi is a nexus state. I have an online business, and so even though I make a sale in Vermont online, someone, or if my company is if I have a sale in Florida, and Florida's a nexus state as well, even though it's online, I have to collect sales tax because I have a certain amount of representatives that sell my product in Florida. And so they sell it by advertising, people go online, so I have to pay. But I pay sales tax to Florida no matter if it's 70 different cities in Florida. I don't say where that money's coming from. All I do is pay Florida a certain amount of money each month when I file my report. And so VRBO, so it becomes more of a mess than just hers being in two cities. I would be willing to bet that 100% of the sales tax she collects is going to Gulfport because her business is based in Gulfport. Robert has businesses in 5 cities, so I would be willing to bet wherever his business is incorporated or formed in, 100% of the sales tax that's collected among those 5 businesses is going to that one city where his business is registered. And so we want, and then the third part is just individuals that do, like she said, maybe advertise online that don't use Airbnb or VRBO. That's the people that I think we have the problem with of not collecting sales taxes. VRBO, Airbnb, they collect. Go ahead.
Well, and I'll tell you, just working in the industry for over 10 years, you're really going to find those people who are not registered with your city. You're going to find them on Airbnb and VRBO, those booking platforms, because those are the biggest ones. That's where you're going to get your money. So when you're looking for those that are not registered with the city, you really need to be looking at those platforms and seeing, hey, is this unit, is this address already registered? That's what I would do if it was up to me to, you know.
Airbnb and VRBO and the other ones, these are like multi-gazillion dollar companies. They're collecting the sales tax and they're paying it. The issue is with our state, it's not getting diverted right, because when they pay it, they're paying one for the whole state. How in the world does the state know where to send that money? Just like in her instance, like I said, even though she has 100 here and 100 in Gulfport, I would be willing to bet, because her business is registered in Gulfport, that Gulfport's getting 100% of the sales tax.
You're saying what we're all saying. It's not right. We're just trying to get it right. Get the whole picture of doing business in Biloxi proper, right, a reconciliation. That's all I'm asking for. You know, if you're doing business, you collect 7%.
But this is across the board. Like,
well, it's still not right. All I'm wanting is to reconcile your checkbook every month. That's what we need to reconcile that sales tax report, because we're sending it up there. We want to make sure we get our shake back.
And I agree, we need to get our shake back, but my point is, how do we even begin to determine that with Airbnb and VRBO? I mean, it's across the board. I mean, what about his business? Where's your business
Don't
registered?
bring me into this.
I mean, I'm just saying, it's a bigger problem than just this one thing.
I'll second.
Let me
I move we table this for a workshop.
Second.
Okay, can I say something
And
first?
I got a motion by
Second workshop.
And who didn't second that? Sorry.
All in favor?
Yeah, I've got a motion by Felix Guines to table this. Are we doing the subject to call? We're gonna set this schedule out? Subject to call?
Yeah, we need a subject to call. We need to set up a date and just
We'll do the
kind of
subject
hash
to
it out.
call, and we'll work to find a date so we can address this. I've got a second by Councilman Glavin.
Is there any way we could get someone here from the State Tax Commission when we have our workshop to maybe find out how they determine?
I can check on that.
What,
and
what
see.
goes where? Because,
sir.
you know, like with the Airbnb thing, they pay one thing.
Can I point out one thing before y'all vote? We sent out the renewal letters over a month ago, almost a month and a half ago, to the 300 people that have short-term rental licenses in this city. So far, we've had 2 people challenge it. Nobody else has called in to complain about the requirement to provide this information to it. We've had 2 people that have either challenged it or complained about it. One of them tried to describe to me that it's just going to be very complex to put that information together. They didn't say it was impossible. They just said that it was going to be complex. This has been advertised. This is the second reading. This has been advertised. Why in the room full of people? If this is going to be such a monumental thing to provide, why isn't there more than 2 people in here today to complain about this?
I've had probably 60% of all the phone calls and text messages I've received in the past few days have been regarding this issue. I don't know why they're not here, but they've reached out to me, and I am their point of contact as a representative.
And it still doesn't change anything. People coming in could still provide it like they've been providing before we've passed this ordinance. They can still provide that information.
This is an industry that we're trying to monitor an industry that does not want to be monitored. And the council has repeatedly asked us to come up with something to where we could provide this information to you. Every year, even during the course of the year, you ask me questions, how much money did we make off of short-term rental last year? And without requiring this information, I don't know how to provide that information to you. I know it's something that we need to have, not just at budget time, but any time during the year. How much money do we make off short-term rental last year? Are we offsetting our cost for the people that we're having to full-time monitor this and renew these licenses and everything else? So,
And I don't have a problem with them having to report it. The issue, though, is bigger. Are we, like the mayor said, how do we determine that we're getting because the reality is on the coast, there's probably 80% plus of the short-term rentals in the state. But if every month VRBO sending the state $1 million, how are they determining what goes where? Or are we even getting any of it?
How do we get our cut?
Let me jump in, just a quick bite here, that the people who are actually applying and are trying, the problem is those people who are going around the system and not even, doing the deal. And maybe we blew it out of, or I have blown it out of proportion. The people who are trying to do this, are not the problem. The people who are trying to go around short-term rentals, say in Biloxi, and they're off the radar completely. So I applaud those folks who have licensed short-term rentals and tried to accommodate. Maybe we made it tougher, but it shouldn't be any tougher than what Jacqueline has done, is just give us a piece of paper annually, and at least the state is supposedly receiving the things that they're supposed to receive.
Paul, you had a comment? I know we have a motion on the table.
Sure. I just want to remind everybody we were all here for the past 3 years. When this first came up, we had a few folks. This is a lucrative business because you're off the radar till you're dragged onto the radar, and that's what we've done, kicking and screaming. I'm not talking about the legitimate operators. But a lot, and we've heard from several of these short-term rental operators, and they may have been going through some of these other platforms, VRBO, Airbnb, who won't give you anything if you call them, because I've tried to call them. I'm sure Jerry's tried to call. They don't have to do business. They don't have to talk to you. They won't talk with you. But because we got the ball rolling, and then we started getting the word out, and now we're following up with community court, we went from having Barney, what's Barney's last name, on Briarfield, Barney Foster with the first short-term rental. He did it right. Yep. He was the first one in here. And then we were up to a dozen for about a number of months. And then we said, all right, we're getting serious. And another 280 came out of the woodwork in short notice. And most of these folks had no idea they're operating illegally. I say most of them, 52%, 60, whatever. But we have one or two. It's just probably more than that. Catch me if you can. I got more properties than you could ever know about, and it's great business. So I applaud the folks who are working with the city on this. What we've tried to do is craft a way to bring these folks onto the radar and just verify that, A, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're paying your taxes and all the taxes that are applicable. This other issue, and to the tax diversion, that's bugged me for 2 years. You just get a check. You don't know where it came from. You don't know if your industry's up or down on the coast, which would be helpful to know what our restaurants were doing under the COVID situation here, but we really don't know. We just know that the check's smaller than it was the previous month.
I know what our bars are doing.
Well, you think you know what they're doing.
No, they're doing
You would
nothing
know
right
better than I, because I'm always in bed asleep at 11 o'clock.
I didn't mean it because I go there.
That's all right.
I mean it because I can't.
I'm done with my comments. You party animal, you.
And there's nowhere to party anymore. I wish I was a party animal. I'm dead as roadkill right now. We have a motion on the table to, subject to call. We'll set a schedule. See if we can get someone from TAPS to be here, someone from the Department of Revenue to be here for that meeting, so we can really figure out how to generate an ordinance that's applicable in the sense that it will actually generate the ends of the means.
Along those lines, I would offer, and I would try to get some people from the state audit department too, because they're aware of what our concerns are on how things are broken down. So I would take the ball and do that from state tax commission as well as the state auditor.
Yeah, get someone from Mr. White's office down as well. All in favor, signal with raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Do you need this, Rob?
I think we need to hear from the representatives from the auditor's
That's
office
good.
and from the Department of Revenue and TAPS to see if we can get representatives down here, and then we can set a meeting when we find out what their availability is.
Hey, not to belinger the point, but is there any way that we can check with the State Tax Commission on her business specifically to see if we're getting any taxes from her business? And that will sort of give us a tell, if.
No, you don't need to do that. Basically, this conversation, that conversation has been had with Shad White, okay? How do I reconcile that? We don't know. That's a perfect example.
That'll just give us an example of, she's registered in Gulfport, and so if 100% of her taxes are going to Gulfport, it's probably like that way on 100% of the businesses that are.
Right, and each one needs to have some comfort level, because I'm sure people do in Biloxi that should be able to go up. I just want to, the right number, the right reconciliation.
All right.
All right, well.
Item 2.
Yeah, on to number 2, Resolution B.
Resolution for notice of intent to amend Section 9122 of the Code of Ordinances pertaining to garbage collection and disposable fees.
I'll move it.
I've got a motion by Councilman Lawrence. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Nathan Barrett. Councilman Lawrence, you have discussion?
Peter can explain here, this is just a request to put this out on the table. This is not passing anything. This is something you have to do by law.
That's why I'm here. That's right. Peter Abod, City Attorney. The last motion, I think, when we had the larger amount, that did not pass or died for lack of, went 3-3. Mike Leonard did go back. We had a lot of questions about, is there a CPI? What's going on with the contract? Let's get some real numbers. And the number they had originally given us, the $15.77, apparently included a lot of dumpsters in the city. So we got the actual cost. And then when going in and looking at it, there is a statute that says we need to publish our notice of intent before we even pass the ordinance to do this. So what we would ask, the number is 15
10.
$15.02, we have 8 cents of administrative costs. $15.10, going from 14.80 to 15.10. It's a 2% increase. And we would start the ordinance next week, the first and second reading, to where this would, if this passes today, we would start the process that this would hopefully be in effect by October 1st. So,
So this had to be put on the table first before you do anything else.
right, we need to pass a notice of intent to increase, even if we're increasing a penny, apparently, you know, any type of increase. And it's only for garbage collection fees, this statute. It does not, this similar notice is not under water and sewer. So it's just a,
So the original increase was 97 cents, and this one is 30 cents?
yes,
See, I know how to do that math.
it was a good thing Felix.
It's 22 cents, right? Over what it was last time? From 14.80 to 22, it'd be 15.02. So it's 75 cents cheaper than it was last week. So y'all did a good job bringing it all up to the table. Saved all the people 75 cents.
Yeah, by Felix not being here, and there was a tie, so Felix is responsible for this reduction.
So if we,
Thank you.
so if we do it again, will it go down another 75?
I count 7 today, so.
Councilman Tisdale?
Question on that 8 cents administrative fee. What is that for?
Right, you know, we talked about the landfill fee. It is a moving target, month in and month out. We don't really know if that's going to cover it. We don't know for sure if this is going to be in effect by October 1st or not. And it's just to allow a little wiggle room to where we would, I think it amounts to $20,000 or $30,000 difference. If we didn't make, if the landfilling cost increases, we would be closer to our target at the end of the year.
But y'all can have this discussion next week when you put it back on with the amounts, right?
Say again?
I said you'll have this discussion next week when you put the amounts back onto the
Sure.
resolution.
That's right.
That way everybody can see them. Okay. And I know it's only 22 cents though. Reading the contract made a big difference. They had all the dumpsters tied into everything at one time. That's why it was 97 cents before. So y'all did good. But y'all did. Proud of you three. Oh, huh? About that. It's again. That's
Call for the question.
I'll take it. Do we have any further discussion? Call for the question. Motion carries 6-1. I'm the only one in opposition. This will bring us to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
no mood.
Second.
I have a motion by George Lawrence.
George Tisdale.
Seconded by Paul Tisdale. Mr. Lawrence, you have the floor.
Where's PA about on Resolution 8, how about 75,000 people when they voted for this? Give us the numbers on the vote. Did it make 500? The power company.
Oh, the certifying the election? That's correct.
Right.
That was,
How many people voted?
400. Peter.
little, 400, yeah. The over-under,
The over-under
was 600, and the mayor owes me $5, I think. So.
So you could have made money. Bet the under. And y'all see, y'all realize where Irish Hill come from on sea? In the old days, they had a house, and all the Irish people have to go cocktails on the hill, and that's where Irish Hill come from. That's where the name came from. In case you'd like to know that, Robert.
Thanks, Papa.
Okay, and here's the famous one. This is, if Popo remember this. Percy. Who used to go in there? Coach Edgewood. Sat up there and designed all his plays, sitting at, eating hamburgers and drinking root beers. Well, maybe other root beers. He used to design the football plays, sitting at the ball. That's another little bit of history for you. And on, why 41 days on this contract on the dirt with the Broadwalk? 882,000, 41 extra days. That's That's,
Oh, well, that's
This is days related to the lease turns and the weather related to Tropical Storm Cristobal.
41 days? When we had that much bad weather?
Well, they had the lease turn issue as well. They couldn't work because the lease turns nested in front of their equipment, and so they had to shut the job down.
Bill Cristobal rolled in, solved the lease turn problem.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Cristobal solved the lease turn problem.
Yeah, what?
Yeah, they're working. Yeah.
And all right, is this still funded? Or did they pull all these funding from the, all this money? Don't y'all having a problem with this stuff being funded from the state? So,
Still working.
y'all gonna do it anyway? We're gonna keep going. No money. So, all the budget dumping, you include that in there? All that extra money you putting out?
Yeah, it's in the current budget.
Still have code I'm tingling already.
But that's it for me there, Robert.
That's it?
That's it.
Councilman Tisdale?
Yes, on item D, this deals with the surplus items. Do we have a date and time and location yet we may not have for this surplus sales? That been determined?
It's in September. I'm sorry, the chief left, so I don't remember the date, but mid-September.
Okay, if you could get that.
We always hold it out there at the, under the water tank at out back behind Fire Station 7. Out there at the,
Okay, yeah.
garages.
Okay. Could you just get that date to me if you don't mind, location? That'd be
Put it in an
fine.
email.
Thank you, that's it.
Move over to Councilwoman Newman. Councilman Glavin.
I have nothing.
Councilman
Nothing.
Guy? Councilman Barrett. All right, the sewer line on Kivette, can you tell me about that project? Is that, I'm not familiar with the crossroads. Was this a project that spawned from the Katrina infrastructure? Was this redone? I think it's on Sibley and Kivette.
The sewer line on Kivette, what item are you talking about?
Item E. Percy and Kivette Street.
Oh. Hold on. Let me look. Oh, that's a public works issue. It probably has to do with damage from a private utility, if I had to guess. Percy and Kivette. Billy Ray's not here, but
Yeah,
Not where they went through the sewer line on Cobbett when they were coming under the 8-inch main through.
It's not FEMA related?
We were trying to get that money back.
this is not.
I don't know.
The 42-inch main? Yeah, 20 years ago.
That was a long time ago. We can find out for you, though. I'll ask Billy Ray and get back with you.
Okay.
We've had an epidemic of broken pipes lately.
You can.
Percy, I don't remember that one. I figured he was going to.
I think that's the Bill Ray project. Bill Ray did that. They wouldn't know.
Kind of a lull in the action here. Could be the eye passing over.
All right, the Pops Ferry submarine cable. Just give me an update on that project.
That is complete. The paperwork that we're approving today is just the final paperwork. We have to do a resolution to close it out with MDOT. We've sent all of the other paperwork to MDOT. It's done.
Okay. And,
This is just administrative stuff that we have to
right,
do.
where are we at on the repairs from the impact from a couple weeks ago?
We're still waiting on a price from Bories to do the repairs to the fender system. I should get them any day now, but once they got in there, it was once they sent the divers down, it was more extensive than they thought, so it took them a little bit longer to kind of
But
figure out.
right now, we're not expecting any interruptions of service,
No,
are we?
No.
Okay. Thank you. That is all I have. If there are no other concerns with the consent agenda, I call for the question. All in favor, please signal with the raise of your hand. Motion carries unanimously, though I'll reserve a moment for anybody that is opposing any of the items. I, not the letter I, the preposition, meaning referring to myself, am opposed to R. Is anybody else opposed to anything else on the consent
Opposed to
agenda?
B, as a boy.
And Councilwoman Newman is in opposition to B, the letter I, like your eyeball. And Councilman Lawrence is in opposition to I.
Pipe that needs to be capped, left over from the rebuilding of Private Street during Katrina times. And they're gonna, the contractor is gonna be digging it up 12 feet down and putting a cap on it.
Putting a cap on it, was this something that wasn't done years ago when it was?
But Yates was the contractor that redid Private Street, whenever the last time, it was left down there. So now they're gonna fix it.
Was this
Bottom contractors.
was this an issue that, I mean, was this something that they failed to do correct and it's going to cost us this money? Or is it something that they're going to reimburse us for, or they're doing it?
I don't have the answer to that.
Okay.
It needs to be done to put the cap on.
Okay. Well, if you would follow up with that for me, follow up on that, thank you. And now we'll move into code enforcement hearings. Mr. Creel, if you would, state your name and your position for the record.
Jerry Creel, Director of Community Development.
Thank you. We'll start with A.
Item A on the agenda, Audrey L. Floyd Estate, care of Terry and Virginia Ann Floyd Ryan, 1612 Lewis Avenue. This property is still in violation.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Audrey L. Floyd, the estate, care of Terry and Virginia Ann Floyd Ryan at... This hearing is closed. B.
Item B, Maria Jezrek Estate, 274 Bluer Drive. This property is still in violation.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Maria Gesterek, the estate, or 274 Bluer Drive? There being none, this hearing is closed. C.
Item C, Johnny A. Olson, 163 Rossetti Street, still in violation.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Johnny A. Olson or 163 Rossetti Street? There being none, this hearing is closed.
Item D, Johnny A. Olson, 165 Rossetti Street, still in violation.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Johnny A. Olson or 165 Rossetti Street? There being none, this hearing is closed.
Item E, Kaylee Rayanne N.K.A. Rayner, 6091 Mason Road. This property is still in violation.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Kaylee Ryan, Nika Rayner, or 6091 Mason Street, Mason Road? There being none, this hearing is closed. Thank you, Mr. Creel. Do I have a motion for the routine agenda?
So moved.
Got a motion by George Lawrence, seconded by Paul Tisdale. Mr. Lawrence, you have the floor.
Come on, Walt, get your mic this time. I didn't hear about the 712,000 last week.
So you're correct. We did receive the 712,000 last Monday. We don't have any money in the pipeline right now because we're 60 days advance funding from MEMA. But we've been working on an issue with MEMA for the past 3 years, and by the council agreeing to add those addendum items at the beginning of the meeting, we have potential for some unexpected and unanticipated income coming back to the city. So we're still working through that process, but it's a good amount. So we're still working with our state representatives.
Appreciate the update. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Tisdale,
Not a thing.
is there any other discussion by the council? There being none, I call for the question. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously.
Recess.
I have a motion to recess
So moved.
by George Lawrence, seconded by Paul Tisdale. All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. We are in recess.